Dr. Ruth was America's most famous sex therapist. Anything you ever wanted to know about sex, she could tell you, and she did tell you on radio and TV. Everybody knew her name, but few people knew the person behind that name. Well, Becoming Dr. Ruth opens on August 23rd, tomorrow night, at the Manatee Performing Arts Center, and joining us is Kelly Burnett, the director of Becoming Dr. Ruth, and Susan Belvo, who plays Dr. Ruth. Kelly, for those of us who do not remember, remind us who Dr. Ruth is.
Well, most people know her as this very charming and funny sex therapist who became famous mostly in the 1980s and 90s. You might remember from her TV show, radio show, commercials, etc. But there's so much more to her. And it was just really fascinating to get to know about her. This show is really, in essence, almost like a World War II history lesson, which is incredible. She's an orphaned refugee, and I really gained so much more respect for her, the reasons that she went into this business that seemingly is unseemly, but there's something very deeply beautiful about the reasons that she does it, that she discusses in the show.
Well, she had a shocking early life, didn't she?
She really did. She really did. And of course, it's very timely nowadays, unfortunately, to talk about being an orphaned refugee, but she became so much more. She came to America and truly lived the American dream. So it's just a beautiful, touching show. It's got humor, it's got pathos, it's got it all. So it's been a pleasure.
Susan, you played Dr. Ruth. And Dr. Ruth did start out in Germany during the Holocaust, and your grandmother was Jewish. How does all this affect you?
Well, it affected me deeper than I thought it would initially. My dad's mom was Jewish. I remember my great-grandmother keeping a kosher house and celebrating all the holidays and everything. But I think that's what made me come to love her even more. And so that's been a help. It's been a little tool that's kind of helped me along.
Because she had to escape Germany, didn't she?
Dr. Ruth did, yes.
Yes, she did.
Yes, she did.
And she fought in the resistance?
She did. She's a little spitfire, you know. She did join the Jewish Underground Army, and she became a sniper. I mean, all these things come out. A
sniper?
Yes, ma'am. Wow. Yes, ma'am. She's a little spitfire, so yeah, she's quite an accomplished woman.
When she got to this country, she had nothing.
No, she came here from money that was given to her by the German government because she was denied her education because of the Nazis, and she put that money to good use. She found a school immediately when she got here. She got her master's degree, went on for her doctorate, failed a couple of times, but came back through and became the woman that we all know and love.
Failed a couple of times.
Her master's thesis was, she failed the exam twice.
We're so glad to know that, because she was like a genius.
Exactly. Well, she was, but you know, she persevered, as she did with everything in her life. She never ran away from anything in her life.
How did she become an expert on sex?
Well, that came later on in years, and that she took a job as a part-time person at Planned Parenthood when her children were in school. And she discovered then, through some of the surveys that she was doing, that this was important to women. And she just felt like this was her way to help other women go through the trials and tribulations that they go through and to find themselves like she found herself.
And she came from this quiet little girl to the biggest TV star in the country, really.
That's right, and she's still going strong.
Yeah.
She's in her 90s now, and
oh, she's still alive.
Absolutely.
Just had her 90th birthday.
Absolutely, still going strong, and still just as funny, just as witty, just as quick. It's just hysterical to see her in interviews. She's sharper than anybody in the room, and she will just come back. But also, we were discussing this the other night, watching some of the interviews. She really listens. She leans in, and she really listens, and she really cares. And I think that's what touches people the most.
And she kind of made it okay to talk about sex.
Yes,
I mean, let's be real. That's something we kind of all, you know, talk about with hushed tones and behind our hands. But she was having radio shows. Call on in and tell me how you feel, and I'll tell you what you should be doing.
Yes, and people did not talk about sex during those days. And so everybody had questions, but nobody to answer them. And along comes the little old Dr. Ruth.
And she discusses that in the show. She was in her 50s, so she was ready for that fame. And she was, you know, she said, I'm kind of this grandmotherly little figure, and maybe I sound like Sigmund Freud, and so that makes people comfortable, and so she really educated the public about sex and sexual responsibility and so forth. It was amazing. Rick,
why this show at this time?
Well, every year I get a stack of plays and I go through them, and this one just stopped me in my tracks. There was so much about her life I had no idea, and I thought it was a good fit for our action through acting, so many topics that are timely.
Well, this certainly is timely today as it was then. Okay, Susan, going to put you on the spot. Say something of words of wisdom from Dr. Ruth like Dr. Ruth would say it.
Dr. Ruth wants everybody to follow their dream, and she likes to say good night and everyone have good sex.
That was amazing.
That's beautiful. We want to hear more of her wisdom. Thank you guys so much. Becoming Dr. Ruth runs through September 9th at the Manatee Performing Arts Center. For more information, visit their website at manateeperformingartscenter.com.